everybody. Welcome to this episode of Fundamental Friday. Thank you to the PAS Education Committee for inviting me to do this segment. My name is Dr. Kathryn Irwin, and I currently teach at the University of Louisiana Monroe, and I'm excited to share a couple tips with you today. So today I want to talk to you about approaching sound quality on the snare drum by focusing on maximizing your resonance through maximum relaxation. So we're going to talk a lot about tone quality through the development of touch. So while staying focused on these two ideas, we can improve our touch and tone quality. Why do we care so much about technique? Why do we care so much about technique on any of our instruments? We care about technique really for two reasons. Number one, safety. So that our safety, safety of the musician themselves, and the safety of our equipment. We don't want to hurt anything. Play marimba, we don't want to break bars, we don't want to damage heads, we don't want to do things like that. And then the second reason, and just as important, is tone quality. And those two things are related. So to focus on safety, we're going to explore the idea of maximizing the amount of resonance that you can create with your sticks and on your drum through maximum relaxation. Now, if you've ever played baseball or softball or tennis or any sport that involves a ball, I suppose, I'm gonna go the baseball route. Now, I was never very athletic as a child, as you could probably tell, but I did play a lot of sports as a kid out in the yard, and maybe this is why I had this experience. But I can remember it when I held a baseball bat. If I didn't hit the ball exactly on the sweet spot on the bat, maybe you've had this experience, what happens? All that shock goes right into your hands, and it kind of stings your hands, right? And so that idea of where are all the vibrations going to go has got me thinking and on track with what I'm talking to you about today. So when we play, it's the same concept. When we hit the drum, that vibration has to go somewhere. So we want to make sure that we're absorbing that in a way that's healthy for our tendons and our bodies. So what I want to talk about today is how you can relax in each hinge of your body or each joint to help spread out the absorption of that shock, right? And so where do we start with that? So we're going to start with our feet, shoulder width apart, nice and relaxed. Roll around our ankles, make sure we're not holding any tension in our ankles. And some people prefer to put one foot in front of the other. Whatever you're doing, it's okay. Just make sure that you're spreading your weight across both feet and you're standing in a nice, relaxed, comfortable stance. Then your knees are going to be nice and relaxed, not locked, but not squatting. They're just standing up, nice, good posture, standing up, able to bounce around a little bit, right? So again, you think about when a car goes over a bump, it has shocks to help absorb that bump, right? So that you don't feel it as much in your seat. So that's kind of how your knees and your ankles are functioning, is that you have a little bit of spring so that it's all the shock is being distributed around among your body. From there, your hips are in line over your feet, over your ankles, your shoulders. Roll your shoulders around, nice and relaxed. So you're not holding any tension there. That's a common place for us in percussion, to hold tension here. And then a super common place in percussion is this right here, right? Because we're always constantly looking down at our music or looking down at our instrument, and we have all this tension in the back of our neck. So we roll around our neck a little bit, make sure we're not holding any tension there. Check our shoulders again. Our elbows are nice and relaxed. Our wrists are nice and relaxed, and our fingers are nice and relaxed. So our good sound quality partially is going to come from just not holding on to a lot of extra tension. One of the things that I can remember taking snare drum lessons as an undergrad is we would talk about like what's going on here, because I hold a lot of tension in my shoulders. That's a common thing. We tense up because we engage our neck like this, and then we have tension in our shoulders, and that comes out in our sounds. Something I talk to my students about is that if you have a really great quality instrument and you have really great quality implements, when you're using those things, they're going to sound good if you get out of the way. And so we're trying to figure out a way to control and finesse the vibration in our implements to get out of the way for maximum amount of vibration resonance. Now, so we've talked about how to stand, how to relax, and all of our relaxation coming in handy as shock absorption, right? So when we play, going back to that baseball bat, when they swing the baseball bat, they follow through, right? So we're also thinking about continuous motion as being an important part of that shock absorption. So when we play, we initiate the stroke. A lot of times we talk about how the stroke starts, whether we start it with our wrist or our fingers or whatever that you talk about to initiate the stroke. What happens afterwards? That continuous motion is going to help spread that shock around to different places. Because why do I keep talking about this? If we don't spread that shock around, and it's constantly being absorbed into the same tendons in your forearm or the same fingers or the same spot all the time, and it's not spread around, that's when people injure themselves. And so going back to safety being number one, we don't want you to get tendonitis. If you're in school, you might be practicing or playing your instrument 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. If you're a grad student, you might be playing even more than that if you count all your ensemble playing and things of that nature. So we want to make sure that you're doing it in a way that's going to be really healthy for you. And that comes from being able to manage that impact in a healthy way. So now we've talked about our posture, being nice and relaxed, not holding on to tension. Something else I want to talk about. So going back to safety, make sure you know the difference between when something hurts and when something burns. So when you're practicing, you might be trying to build muscle, especially early in your development, you're working on chops or whatever. Make sure that you're doing it in a way that is healthy burn. Like I went for a run and my leg muscles now burn, versus I went for a run and now I have a fracture in my ankle, right? That pain is very different, and we want to be aware of that when we're drumming. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about a tool that I use to check in on my sound quality, and it goes hand in hand with maximizing your resonance, and it goes hand in hand with maximum relaxation. So I don't recommend doing all of your practice on a practice pad. A lot of your tone development is going to come from playing on the snare drum itself. However, this is a tool that I use for sort of doing self-checks, okay? So if I am super relaxed and everything's going really well, then you're going to be able to hear the pitch of my sticks come through if I'm playing on a practice pad. If I do that on a drum, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between what's the pitch of my sticks and what's the pitch of my drum. So this is a tool to use, not the only tool to use, but it is a tool to use for your practicing. So I might use it to do something like check in when I'm warming up on my different stroke types. So I play my rebound strokes and I make sure that they're nice and open. And then maybe I transfer that over to double strokes or downstrokes and upstrokes. However, whatever terminology you use to identify those different things, this is a great tool for exploring that. So if you've played claves before, you know that when we teach you to play claves, we talk about creating a little chamber for it to resonate on, and so you place it on there and you hold the other one nice and loose and relaxed so that you get the pitch of the clave to come out, right? So similar to snare drum sticks, you hear the pitch. Hopefully that's coming through in the video. Listen to the difference now. If this is nice and relaxed and you can hear the pitch of my sticks, to I've got too much tension and too much pressure on in my hands. And then you hear it open up. We're going to take that concept and apply it as a tool for our playing right now on the practice pad. So I'm going to start too tight. So it sounds like this. I'm going to play rebound strokes, but I'm going to have my hands are too much pressure. And as I play, I'm going to relax. And now all of a sudden you can hopefully hear that pitch come through my sticks, right? That's the tool that we're trying to chase right now. How relaxed can I be and still have control and finesse to do the things that I want to do to allow that maximum amount of resonance? So then I'm going to apply that to the different stroke types. So a very common issue with young players and older players, to be honest, is that in order to play a downstroke, so a stroke that starts high and ends low, a lot of times students feel like they have to squeeze here in order to get it to stop the rebound. There's a couple things happening here. One, I've now lost my continuous motion. Two, I can now feel that impact traveling up my arm because I'm squeezing so hard here. Because you can feel it engaging this muscle, right? So I can feel it, the shock absorbing right inside there. Now, if I relax my hand, I can now hear that pitch coming through. And because I'm continuously moving, even though I'm stopping the stick down, there's a continuous motion that's happening. And so the relaxation here, in my fingers, here, and here, are helping to absorb and spread that shock around. I'm no longer feeling that harsh impact into my forearm. So this is a great tool to explore different stroke types. Can you maintain that pitch as you play different things? So again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to play just single rebound strokes, and I'm going to do it too tight, and then I'm going to relax so you can hear the difference. Now I'm going to do double strokes. You can hear, hopefully still hear the pitch. And you can still hear the pitch as I'm doing downstrokes and upstrokes. This applies to anything as it gets more complicated as well. So like flam taps. And I'm going to tighten up so you can hear the difference. So now all of a sudden I've lost some of that resonance. That is going to directly transfer over to the tone quality that I make on the snare drum as well. So we want to make sure that we're nice and relaxed. And then as things get more complicated, which brings me to my second point of when I use this tool. So I use it in my warm-up to check my different stroke types, but I also check it whenever I'm learning something complex. And let's say there's like one measure that's really difficult, that has a lot of ornamentation or something. That's a great time for me to hop back over to the practice pad, and I'll kind of hop between the two. So, maybe something with like flam accents. Hopefully you can hear that the pitch is still coming out underneath all of that. But if I choke it off, now all of a sudden my sound quality is sounding more choked off. And this is going to also, by the way, transfer. I have a Pearl Philharmonic concert snare drum sitting right here. That's also going to transfer over if you're playing on a marching drum. The same concept of having open sounds, right? And maybe you've even heard someone say something like you have to have soft hands. That's what they mean, soft hands. I think about that like if I'm gonna take a little tiny baby's hand, I'm not gonna squeeze it, right? That's soft hands would be I can take this baby's hand and I'm not gonna hurt the baby. The baby's gonna be happy, right? So the same thing applies here. How relaxed can I be, and how soft can my hands be to help absorb the shock and help open up the sound? So one thing I wanted to mention earlier when I was talking about relaxing, something else that I see a lot, is you'll notice that I have a slight downward angle on my forearms, but my wrists, when I'm getting ready to play, my wrists are in line with my forearm. I'll see sometimes students do this as their playing position, and this is a little bit problematic in terms of everything that we're talking about right now, because it's engaging your muscle already by doing this. And you can feel it if you put your stick down and you have it like normal. This is very relaxed. And if I go like this, I can feel this muscle right here engage. And so your muscle is already engaged. How can you have maximum relaxation if you're already using your muscle in order just to hold the sticks like this? And alternatively, the same thing would apply here, right? You can feel it engaging there. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, we talked about using this as a tool in difficult passages. So let's just say one of the times that I used this, I was working on Spur by Ivan Trevino, and there's a passage in there with a lot of ornamentation. And when I first hopped over to the pad, I was trying really hard to squeeze those ornaments in there. Like, I hop over the pad and it's like, hey, too much tension, I can't hear the pitch. So, hopefully you can hear it. You can hear a little better if I play in the center. So I figure out the sticking that I want based on the phrasing that I want to make, but I also figure out the sticking based on how open of a sound I can create. So if I sit here and practice just that one, it's in 6/8, that one beat. And we'll see here if I take this off for a second. And look, I'm doing my bad habit I just told you not to do. I'm looking down. I'm not going to do that. Pretty good. If I choke. Nice and open, choked. So it's a very minor difference, but it is a difference. And so we want that sound, and the difference is actually amplified the louder you play, and depending on the passage. So you can use this whenever you come across something. How relaxed can I be? And in terms of maximizing relaxation and technique, so I'm not talking very much today about the actual physicality of what you use. People talk about this in different ways. They talk about front fulcrum, they talk about 3-point fulcrum, they talk about back fulcrum. There's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. But the idea is that we're all chasing the same thing, maximum resonance with maximum relaxation, so that we have the best tone quality. We have the best touch, creating the best tone quality, and we're not injuring ourselves. So hopefully you found something helpful in today's Fundamental Friday. Thank you so much for watching, and come see me at PASIC this year. Bye.